This is an oral history interview conducted for the Witness to War Serving a Nation project at Nauset Regional High School on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. For the sake of this interview, please state your full name and the community which you now reside.
Dean Bilter, and I live in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Okay. First question. How did you end up on Cape Cod?
I ended up on Cape Cod. I came here with a friend and decided I loved it and stayed.
What was the last thing you did before leaving for the service?
I was working. I went to college, and school was not my thing. And I ended up leaving college, and I worked for Schaefer Beer, and I got drafted.
Okay. What and where did you service? What was your branch?
I was in the Army in the 101st Airborne, and I served in Vietnam.
Okay. As a child, what was your understanding of war?
The main thing we knew was World War II, and my father was served in World War II, and that's pretty much what I knew.
When did you decide to enlist?
I didn't enlist. I was drafted as they needed men for Vietnam.
How did your military experience change your life?
That's sort of a big question. It was the life-defining moment in my life. It changed my perspective. It changed how I thought about myself. And because I have PTSD, it pretty much changed me completely.
What was your favorite military experience?
Jumping out of airplanes. I loved doing that.
Could you elaborate more on that?
Well, I like doing anything physical, so it was I was very athletic and everything when I was growing up, so I was into all that stuff, jumping out of airplanes, rappelling out of helicopters, and anything. I was not afraid of. At that age, at 19, you're not afraid of much.
What was going through your mind on the way to Vietnam?
Pretty much if I was going to come back or not.
What comes to your mind when you hear the word Vietnam?
There's a lot of things. Heartbreak. I was in a combat unit, so I saw a lot of bad things, and but it was what I had to do. It was what I signed up for, and I think about 58,000 men who didn't come home.
How long did you go without talking to your family when you served?
Probably 4 months.
What was life like in the first month of coming home? Was it hard to adapt?
It was a little confusing because it was during that time when, in the 60s, when everybody was against the war, everybody my age, they were against the Vietnam War, and so for me to try and fit in was nearly impossible. I went to Woodstock and Vietnam, so I was a little confused whether I was a hippie or a soldier. So, but it was hard, and so and continues to be a little troubling.
Describe a typical day in the military.
Well, there are two kinds of days in the military. If you're a day on base would be pretty much relaxing, cleaning everything, and a day in the field was you didn't know what was going to happen. We would go on patrols and maybe getting engaged with the enemy.
What were you allowed to pack?
Just your military things, just what you needed.
How often do you think back to wartime?
Quite a bit. Probably almost once a day, maybe, because it's sort of burned in my soul there.
What time did you have to wake up and go to sleep?
You got sleep when you could get it. When you were in the field, in the jungle, if you could get an hour or 2 hours, that was good. So it was just when you could get it.
What was the meal like in the service?
The meal? Well, in the States, they weren't too awful bad, but we had MRIs in the field, cans of this and cans of that. And you rarely got a hot meal.
What was boot camp like?
Boot camp was, I was in the mode for, it was sort of fun. It was like athletics. It was like, you're on a team and they ran you, and we did all kinds of physical things. So I didn't mind it at all.
What were conditions like when you served?
Which conditions?
Like weather conditions.
Well, in boot camp it was summer in Georgia, so it was hot and steamy. And in Vietnam it was hot and steamy. So
How did joining the military affect your relationship at home?
Well, I didn't join. I got drafted, and I changed. I came home and I was totally different.
Describe your favorite experience from your time serving.
Probably the training. And then when I got to Vietnam, things got real. And when things get real, they get scary. So that's pretty much it.
What kind of friendships did you develop in the military?
Well, you had to protect yourself and others. So it was all about being part of a group, working together.
What was the hardest thing you had to do while you were serving?
Go to war and fight a battle and shoot at people.
Could you elaborate more on that?
Well, it's what war is, These are real bullets, and and it is what it is. War is war, and it's whoever lives wins.
Did you have any free time, and if so, what did you do?
I really didn't have any free time. Any free time we got, we rested and slept.
What was it like living so far from home?
I didn't mind it. It was a foreign country. It was a little scary, But everybody who went was in the same boat, so if we stuck together, it was doable. It was easily done.
Describe some of your responsibilities as a corporal.
Well, I'm I helped the squad leader set up perimeters and walk patrols, I didn't really have that much responsibility. I just did what I was told, and I kept my head down, and that was how it is.
Could you tell me what a patrol and a perimeter are?
Well, a perimeter is when you take a rest, when you have a group of guys in this your company in the center, and you set up a perimeter around to make sure no one comes in. No enemies. Patrol is when we go out and just patrol the area looking for Viet Cong or Vietnamese.
What did people in your life think about when you were going into the war?
Well, I had a lot of friends from Fairfield who went into the war, so it wasn't that uncommon back in the early mid-60s.
Did you have lots of friends?
Yep, that played over, that I still know. So,
if you could go back in time, would you do anything differently while serving?
I don't know. I think I would have tried to be a better soldier. Everybody thinks they could do more. So, but as like I'm saying, as a 19-year-old, you really don't know what's going on, so you follow orders and just keep going.
How did you feel when you found out you were drafted?
Well, I knew it was coming. I didn't mind it. I thought it was the right thing to do.
What was your reaction when you found out?
I just resigned myself to the fact that this is what was happening. And this is what I had to do.
How do you feel about the people of the country you fought against?
90% of them are good people. The communists, the Viet Cong, and the North Vietnamese were not so good. They wanted to win, and we wanted them to get out.
What did you miss most when you were serving?
What did I miss most? Oh, I missed being home. Miss my friends, miss my family. So, miss whatever makes you comfortable, because you're not very comfortable when you're in the service.
What is your clearest memory from wartime?
Probably my clearest memory is the first time I got shot at and realized that this was real. That it wasn't training anymore, it was the real thing.
Did you earn any awards or?
No, I have all my. I have a Purple Heart, but that was it.
Could you tell me what a Purple Heart is?
It's when you get wounded.
Okay. Could you elaborate more on that? Were you proud of that?
Well, I wasn't proud of it because I got wounded, but I spent a year in the hospital at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, and it's what happens in the war.
How long did you serve?
I served probably almost 2 years.
Can you describe an enemy for me?
An enemy? Sometimes they were 15-year-old kids, guerrillas. Sometimes they were old women. There were a lot of people who didn't like us. So, when we got up into northern part of Vietnam, it was the NVA, which was the North Vietnamese Army, the Communist Army.
Who awarded the Purple Heart?
That came at the hospital in Japan.
Could you define a hero?
Can I define a hero? I don't know. I think everybody over there who got through this and came out of there as a hero. You know, there are a lot of people who won medals. I don't know what they did, you know, but it was always a team effort. So,
Can you describe one specific mission from the war?
you know, they all run into each other. I'm going to tell you that, you know, we got pinned down once for about 12 hours and we had to fight our way out of it. And in Quang Tri, and that was about the scariest one I was in. So,
How do you feel about movies that are made about the war?
oh, I haven't. I've seen a couple of them, but they haven't. You know, they embellish them and everything. You know, but I don't watch them. So that's how it is.
What was your favorite memory from the war?
Going home. Tell you the truth.
How did the military change your life?
Well, it gave me a new perspective on life. You know, it's, you know, before when you're a young kid, you know, you don't know what's going on, where you're going to go, and what you're going to do. So you get drafted and you're 19 years old and you get told what's going on. You know, you got a mission that you have to do.
What was the hardest decision you had to make?
Probably whether to shoot someone or not.
Could you elaborate more on that?
No, that's about it. You know, but when it became evident that he was going to shoot you, it was him or me. So that's how it is.
Did it change any of your perspectives on life?
Of course it did.
What type of perspectives?
Well, on how brutal life can be. You know, and how war is, how stupid it is, and you know, it's you know, there were some really good men in Vietnam that got killed. So, and we came out the other side, and we don't know why we're there or what we were supposed to be doing, but we were following orders.
If you ever went back to Vietnam today, what emotions do you think you would feel?
I did go back to Vietnam. I went back about 5 years ago, and it was heartbreaking. You know, the people were really nice. It was a different country because it's a beautiful country, and I got to look at it without helicopters in the sky and fighter jets and army trucks. So you really get to, you know, I talked to Vietnamese people, and it was, you know, it was very hard because there's all those souls that were left over there, 58,400 and I don't know what it is, 68 men that were killed there. And, you know, that was a tough deal. But I'm glad I went back.
Great. Were there any comforting moments in the war?
Well, I don't know. We found a baby once, you know, mother and a baby. That's about it, you know.
What was your worst memory? What was your worst memory from the war, and how does that affect you today?
Well, my worst memory is probably having men killed that were next to me and near me and having to watch them die. So, and that still haunts me. So,
What was your happiest memory?
going home. No.
What was your reaction seeing your family once you got home?
It was good. I was in a hospital up in Fort Devens, Massachusetts, and It was great, you know.
Have you ever visited the Vietnam Memorial?
Yes,
What do you think of that?
I think it's very moving. It's, you know, the heartbreaking place.
Who in your family was in the military before you?
Just my father in World War II.
Did he give you any advice?
Keep your head down.
How was life in Vietnam different from when you were growing up?
How was life different?
Yeah. Or
How was life different in
Right.
Vietnam?
then at home, yes.
It's totally different. I did whatever I wanted at home. You know, you had to be pretty disciplined in Vietnam.
Do you have any specific stories you would like to tell us? Any happy ones?
Happy stories.
Yeah.
No, I'm sort of, I can't come up with happy stories. I'm sure there was happy times that I had with the guys, but most of it was a very hard time. And then when we came home, no one wanted to talk to us, We were told, don't talk about it and don't wear your uniform. So,
What was your worst injury that you sustained?
well, my hand was blown up, and they had to piece it back together. So,
Do you want to elaborate more on that story?
no. I mean, it was during a firefight. There's a lot of bullets, trees coming down, total confusion, and bullets everywhere, and my hand got in the way.
Why did you like jumping out of planes so much?
Because I thought it was very exciting. I like stuff like that give you the little adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
It's like a good ride on a horse.
Did you jump out of a plane in Vietnam?
No, they didn't have any combat jumps. They had one jump, but because of the jungle, you really couldn't jump there because you would be hung up in the canopy that was above you. So.
Do you have any advice if people were going into the war now?
Well, it's, there's a lot of wars going on, those policing actions in Afghanistan. And, if you go through the training and do what people tell you to do, you'll get back. And, you just have to be trained and pretty disciplined. So, that's the only advice I can give.
What was the hardest decision you had to make in wartime?
Well, like I said before, it's, you have to come to that fact that you have to shoot at people and get them to, before they shoot at you.
Do you have any more happy stories or any stories you'd like to tell?
No. I ran into my brother-in-law in Da Nang. When I got shot, I was in the hospital in Da Nang Air Force Base, and I called him up. He's your grandfather. So it was, I knew, I ran into a bunch of friends there who were all doing the same thing as I was doing. So.
Did you like being enlisted or in the war?
No, not really. I like doing things like that, physically active, but that was a little scary.
Did you get to choose to go into the Air Force
The airborne.
or airborne?
Yes.
What did you like about it?
I don't know. They paid you more. You got an extra $30 a month or something for jumping out of planes. So
Did you conquer any fears that?
probably jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah.
It's not a natural thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So
Do you still have any fears today that the war didn't?
no, I think I'm pretty good. You know, as long as no one's shooting at me, I'm on the plus side.
If you could go back today, would you change anything from when you're younger?
I don't know. I would probably maybe I would enlist, and that way you can have some control over where you went in the service. But you know, that was you couldn't go back and do that. You know, the draft was on, and my name came up. So
How often do you talk to your friends that you made?
I haven't talked to them in quite a while. You know, everybody gets scattered.
Do you like having friends from the war?
Yeah, but I never, you know, once we got out of there, we got out of there. You know, so I really don't keep in touch.
Do you like, what comes to mind when you see an American flag?
Well, I'm proud. I'm proud where I live. I'm proud of you know, what I did. You know, even though no one liked it. So
Did you get any clean water while you were at?
yeah, there was never a water shortage. You had pills that you put in the water too. You took malaria pills, and you took salt pills because you sweated so much. So, you know, yeah, I think I knew well enough not to drink the water straight out of the pond, the rivers.
You said there were no hot meals. What were the meals like?
They were just canned.
What food?
Well, they had beef stew. They had fruit, you know, and then you got a little pack of cigarettes, about 6 cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the food wasn't too bad.
Were there any beautiful sights that you saw in Vietnam during the war?
Vietnam is a gorgeous country, you know. They have beautiful hills and mountains and beaches. So, yeah, it's a gorgeous country.
How was adapting like after the war? Were there any hard things to do?
Yeah, I had a lot of nightmares and I didn't sleep, and you know, so it takes a while to figure it out. And I had to go to therapy and all that stuff, go to the VA. So
What's the VA?
the Veterans Administration. It provides veterans with health care and psychiatric care and watches out for us.
Do you think the war made you a better person?
I don't know about that. You know, I mean, it made me a more experienced, realistic person, I think.
Thank you for for letting us interview you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
If I can do anything else, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I was